For 31 years he was second in line to the Monegasque throne, and for 9 years he held the position of heir, although judging by his resume, we don't think he was too happy about this state of affairs. First, because in his early youth his reputation as a party boy meant that few people thought Andrea Casiraghi's ready to become sovereign if his uncle, Prince Albert, turned out to be childless. Secondly, because the quiet life he had chosen when he met his current wife was far from the visibility a head of state should have. And finally, paradoxically, it was his aunt, Princess Charlene, who saved him from the throne. After all, for Andrea Casiraghi to become a sovereign prince, things would have to go very wrong. His cousins, Jacques and Gabriella, born in 2014, are ahead of him in the line of succession. At the time we assume he sighed, his grandfather, Raniero, died unaware that 9 years later his only son gave him grandchildren, although 2 of the 4 do not count in the line of succession because they were born out of wedlock. The other 2, twin children Charlene and Albert of Monaco, were the saviors of their cousin's freedom, but if that had not happened, today we would be talking about an heir who for several years was more into partying than institutional affairs. If Andrea Casiraghi had to take the future throne, he would have been physically in Monaco to familiarize himself with politics, international relations, and other palace affairs. His life would have been very different from today. After living in London for several years, he settled in Switzerland and, as a father of 3 children, only came to Monaco a few times during the year. But on June 8, 1894, that is, 40 years ago, he was born second in line to the throne, second only to Prince Albert, whom few trusted at the time to have a stable relationship and heirs, which did not happen until 3 decades later. On June 8th, Andrea became the first child born to Carolina and Stefano Casiraghi, followed by 2 more children, Pierre and Carlotta. And 3 years after the birth of the girl, who has now become the muse of Chanel, tragedy struck Stefano. Her father died in a boating accident, leaving Princess Carolina a widow and leaving a special imprint on the life of Andrea, who, unlike her siblings, understood very well what had happened. After a childhood filled with nostalgia, sadness, and family, came the young man's craziest years when he became a handsome prince desired by half of Europe. Especially high profile was the case in 2003 when the young, aspiring actress Maria Curato became for him a fleeting summer romance between beaches, sun loungers. And of course, let's not forget that he was still second in the line of succession, which caused many to throw their hands up in the air when they saw these images, so far removed from palace protocols. Prince Albert was 35 years old at the time, and he didn't mind throwing a seaside party. What's more, there are even photos of a day of champagne and fun spent with his nephews Andrea and Pierre. The question of when he would marry and procreate was like the elephant in the room, as he was well past the age expected in royal circles to start a family, and thus immortalize the lineage. In 2005, Prince Rainier died and Albert took over as sovereign, while Andrea moved closer to a throne he had not aspired to, even though he knew that unless things changed, he would not have another. But the torment did not last long. In 2006, Alberto and Charlene, a South African swimmer he had met 6 years earlier, began a relationship. A few months later, their relationship hit the media, and in July 2011, they tied the knot in marriage. Almost from the beginning, rumors of crisis accompanied them, and the shadow of the breakup even appeared on the front pages of some European media. This, with the birth of Jacques and Gabriella in 2014, thus displacing him no less than 2 places in the line of succession, did not affect Andrea Casiraghi, at least institutionally. Andrea Casiraghi, for 31 years second in line to the Monegasque throne, and for 9 years the heir, led a life marked by expectation and avoidance of royal duty. In his youth, his reputation as a party boy caused many to doubt his ability to assume the throne if his uncle Prince Albert remained childless. His quiet life with his wife, far from royal duties, demonstrated his lack of interest in becoming sovereign. However, the birth of his cousins, twins Jacques and Gabriella, children of Albert and Charlene, further distanced him from the possibility of inheriting the throne. This allowed him the freedom to live a more private life in Switzerland with his family, visiting Monaco only occasionally. Over the years, Andrea has lived between the potential duty and his desire for a more anonymous and free life. Conclusion: Andrea Casiraghi's life exemplifies the conflict between royal expectations and personal desires. Despite being close to the throne for many years, Andrea always seemed more inclined towards a private and peaceful life. The arrival of his cousins Jacques and Gabriella not only secured the continuity of the Grimaldi lineage, but also freed Andrea from a role he never actively sought.